It is Saturday morning, and Saturday morning I spend a good number of hours just cleaning up the week. And what that means for me is I start with all 5 of my email inboxes. There's personal, there's a number of business emails, there's my identity email, which is anthony@iannarino.com, where I get a lot of things from people on the newsletter or people through the blog or through YouTube. And I take all of those inboxes down to 0. And I only do this twice a week, and this is the day that I work really hard to get all of the email processed. I don't do email every day. I look at it, I scan it for things that are urgent, but I don't live in the inbox, so it piles up, and there's probably a couple hundred emails to get through. And what I do with these is I take the tasks and I move them to the task manager, OmniFocus. So if it's a task and it's something I actually have to do, it goes on the task list. If it's an email I needed to read, I read it and then I archive it. If it's something I don't need to see, I delete it or I archive it if I think I'm going to need it in the future. And then I move on to the next email. And this is a long process for me, but it's because I get about 3,000 emails a week. And it doesn't make sense to stop doing what's most important while you're right in the middle of the week to respond to your email. Because once you get into the inbox and you start picking up all of the things that people want from you, then it's very difficult to get back into a focused work mode. So for me, it's 90-minute blocks of work. It's 4 or 5 scans of the inbox just to make sure I take care of anything that needs to be taken care of in a timely manner, and then the rest of it gets saved up for Saturday morning. When I'm done with that, I take my physical inbox and I process the physical inbox. So that's all the paper that comes in. This is the physical inbox. So all of this needs to be processed too, which means things need to be filed, they need to be scanned into Evernote, bills need to be paid, and all of that goes pretty quickly, honestly. All your bills are paid electronically now, so this is super easy. But it all has to get done, and Saturday is the day where I do all of that work, so that Sunday I'm clean for planning the next week. And that's the morning. That's every Saturday morning, every week of the year. And it's that discipline that allows you to stay on top of everything and make sure that you're getting the most important work done. Show me what you want. Where are they? They're over here? Oh, you're afraid of the camera. Come on. The perfect dog snack every time. Nilla wafers. Hey, it's Anthony Iannarino, thesalesblog.com, right here, youtube.com/Iannarino, and author of The Only Sales Guide You'll Ever Need. And I want to talk about content creation. I started writing the blog at thesalesblog.com in earnest on December 28th, 2009. And I had been watching Seth Godin and I had been watching Chris Brogan publish daily, and I recognized the results that they were producing by doing that. And I sat down and decided that I was going to get up early in the morning and do that very same thing. To get started though, for about a month before that, I had picked up a treatise by David Kilcullen about counterinsurgencies. And when I read it, I immediately thought about how it applied to sales and how it applied to business. So the first 28 days I rewrote that before leading up to that December 28th decision to write on my own. Once I had copied those ideas and translated them into sales, I developed the habit of writing every day, and it took off from there. Minus 13 days I was in Tibet in 2010, where I thought it would be bad form to go to Lhasa and go to the Potala Palace and worry about writing, or going to Everest and worry about writing. And what I know now, I would have taken a camera and I would have documented the whole thing, but I didn't know that then. And I didn't know how good the technology was there when it comes to wireless. It was impeccable all the way from Lhasa to Mount Everest. When I got back, I started writing again. And I'm asked, how do you come up with this content? How do you come up with something to write every day? And I don't come up with something to write every day. I come up with a lot of ideas. and I catalog them. So what I do whenever an idea strikes me, I grab the iPhone, I either go into OmniFocus if I'm going to write something now because that's my task manager, or I go into a program called Ulysses and I write down the root of the idea. So I'll give it a title and I'll write down a couple paragraphs about what I'm thinking, or maybe 2 sentences about what I'm thinking. And I looked right before I turned the camera on. Right now I have 85 titles with some notes, and I have about another 25 half-written blog posts because when the idea came to me, it was so fully formed that I was able to type a couple paragraphs wherever I was. I might have been on a plane, I might have been sitting in a meeting and something popped up and I took down the title because it struck me. But whatever happens, I write the idea down. And I'll tell you, that's the first key to creating content. What has your attention is worth writing down. And you might have this client problem. It might be really challenging. You might be super stressed out. But when you look at that problem and say, what does my client need to learn about this? What do I need to learn about this? How do you think about producing better results in this particular scenario? You just wrote a blog post, or you've recorded a video like this. Either way, whatever format works for you for delivering the content, use whatever format you like. Use whatever format serves your clients, whatever that is, or your audience. But take a note. So I don't sit down every day and start from scratch. Sometimes an idea strikes me and I want to write it that day, but I have a catalog of things that I'm still writing. And the pushback that I get from people is, I could never do that. And of course you could do that if you wanted to. So I give people an easy way to think about content creation, and it's this. If you were to make a list of the top 10 things that your prospective client or your audience cares about or should care about or needs to learn something about, and you came up with a top 10 list, you'd have a killer piece of content. You would have at least a structure for a list of 10 things, and that would be good content by itself. But if I pressed you further and said, take the number one thing, my clients don't understand this about their world, or my audience doesn't know enough about this particular area, so I'm going to take the first thing on my top 10 list and I'm going to write 10 blog posts about that particular topic. If you decided to write 10 posts in every one of those areas, 10 by 10 is 100 plus your original list, you have 111 pieces of content just by sitting down with a legal pad and making your top 10 list, and then taking the number one thing, and that number one thing, make it this. 10 things you need to understand about this to produce better results. And then take the first one and say, 10 things you need to know about this thing to produce better results. And each one of those things you come up with is a blog post on its own. I tend to write 350 to 500 words. That's what I tend to write. I've written blog posts that were 1,200 words. I've written some that were 200 words because I write what the idea commands. That's it. I don't worry about how long it is. But you might write one post a week that's 1,000 words and put it on LinkedIn, and that might be the right thing to do. You already have the ideas, but the trick is to make sure you capture them and you get this habit started of, this idea strikes me, I'm writing it down. And then you'll always have content that you can go back to. And that's why I don't believe there's any such thing as writer's block. If you have all these notes, once you start writing, the writer's block goes away. Writing is what cures people from writer's block. The way I think about content creation is capture the ideas that serve your audience, that serve your clients, that serve your team internally. Write those ideas down and then develop them so that you have something to use to create content for weeks and months and even years. I'm Anthony Iannarino. I hope this content is valuable for you. If it is, hit the subscribe button because this is every day.